Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the Wild Boy Podcast, a podcast focusing on the one and only Billy Wilder. I'm BlakeCorsaut, and today we're going to talk about Wilder's career, focusing on his filmmaking era in the 1950s. We'll be talking about three specific films within this era. We'll start, of course, with Wilder's first film of the 50s, Sunset Boulevard, which was released in 1950. From there, we will be discussing his following film, 1951's Ace in the Hole, and then shifting to his last film of the 50s, 1959's Some Like It Hot. Born Samuel Wilder on June 22, 1906, in Sucha, which was part of the Austria-Hungary Empire, but later Poland, his father passed away in his 20s, and his mother spent many years in the United States. And she was a big fan of the American soldier and gunman Buffalo Bill, giving Samuel the nickname of Billy. Early on, Wilder was a reporter and even briefly studied law in Vienna. But in 1926, he moved to Berlin to continue his journalism career, where he did a publicity job for American jazz band leader Paul Whiteman. In 1929, his first break in film came from the German film Menschen am Sonntag, which translates to People on Sunday. And after years of success in Germany, Wilder fled to Paris following the Reichstag fire of 1933, which was an arson attack on the German parliament, following Adolf Hitler being sworn in as Chancellor of Germany. Less than a year later, he made his way to the United States, where he worked here and there until 1938, when he began his relationship with collaborator Charles Brackett, who had produced many of Wilder's films and even worked as a writing partner for many a years. They wrote many hits such as the forever quick and witty Ball of Fire. Eventually, this led to Billy getting to direct his first American film, The Major and the Minor. During World War II, his mother and much of his family would sadly perish during the Holocaust, leading to much cynicism and sadness that would be reflected throughout his films. Through the 50s, he made many hit films. Leaving the professional relationship with Brackett after Sunset Boulevard, Ace in the Hole would be his first film after a long stretch without Charles Brackett. But in 1957, he found his new filmmaking partner in I.A.L. Diamond, who he would collaborate with for over 20 years, including the film Some Like It Hot. Through his long career, he made such a variety of films, successfully in so many different genres, that it leaves him almost hard to describe as a director. Not afraid to tackle any taboo or any theme, I personally call him the king of endings. No matter what genre, you know Billy will leave you with a worthwhile ending scene or moment. Post the mid-60s, Billy had a tough time relating to the audiences. Their outlook on life was different, and his films were not seen as fitting for the world that had been built. But many today look back at even those films as fond artworks by the great director. From here, I will be talking about some quotes from some articles. For example, in a Variety article from August 1950, it was reported that, quote, Sunset Boulevard got the biggest non-holiday opening gross in the history of Radio City Music Hall, end quote. Billy Wilder had started off the 50s with a bang. This film would, of course, mark the last collaboration with Charles Brackett, in which much mystery revolves around their breakup. Most accounts, though, they say that Brackett believed Wilder to be too hard-headed, and Wilder claims to not really know what happened. From here, Wilder's next film is the also powerful Ace in the Hole. In an interview with film scholar Joseph McBride, they discuss Ace in the Hole, in which, quote, the failure of Ace in the Hole, both commercially and critically in the United States, was quite traumatic for Wilder, end quote. Although, like many of Wilder's films, Ace in the Hole is looked back as a very powerful and strong title within Wilder's filmography. It just did not do well in the States, both on the critical and commercial level. Although it did well in Europe, in many ways the United States was not ready to reflect on its own issues, having issues with the satirical manner which Wilder tells a story. Unlike in Europe, where they were very much ready for a film of that matter. One wonders if Wilder thought any further about what his career would be like without Charles Brackett involved. Here's a clip directed by Billy Wilder from Ace in the Hole, performed by Kirk Douglas and Robert Arthur, who play newspaper men on their way to a story.
You know, this could be a pretty good story, Chuck. Don't sell it short. It's quite a sight. 1,000 rattlers in the underbrush and a lot of men smoking them out, bashing in their heads.
Big deal. 1,000 rattlers in the underbrush. Give me just 50 of them loose in Albuquerque. Like that leopard in Oklahoma City. The whole town in panic. Deserted streets. Barricaded houses. They're evacuating the children. Every man is armed. 50 killers on the prowl. 50. One by one, they start hunting them down. They get 10, 20. It's building. They get 40, 45. They get 49. Where's the last rattler? In a kindergarten? In a church? In a crowded elevator? Where?
Give up. Where?
In my desk drawer, Fan. Stashed away, only nobody knows it, see? The story's good for another 3 days. Then when I'm good and ready, we come out with a big extra. Sun Bulletin snags number 50.
Where do you get those ideas?
Herbie, boy, how long did you go to that school of journalism?
3 years.
3 years down the drain. Me, I didn't go to any college, but I know what makes a good story, because before I ever worked on a paper, I sold them on a street corner. And you know the first thing I found out? Bad news sells best. Because good news is no news. Better get some gas.
The back and forth dialogue between the two is a perfect encapsulation of Billy Wilder's focus on earnest performances that often have a hard edge and the overall beautiful pacing of a Billy Wilder film. Not always fast in pacing, but the films are always moving. Nothing sits for longer than it needs to, nothing rushes by too fast. Here's a clip of Wilder talking himself about the pacing in his films.
In all your films, it seems like the pacing is very quick. Do you have the actors deliver their lines faster?
Well, you see, there is a sort of a misconception that pace and speaking quickly is the same thing. You can have pace by people not speaking quickly. It depends on the cut. It depends on the rhythm of the thing. Because leisurely moments, silent moments, they have much more power. But certain pictures have to be played at a good clip. But pace and actors just rattling things off, you know, don't confuse that, you know. There's always a confusion in our world. That's like people confuse poverty with misery. I have known very many poor people, they have not been miserable, and I can tell you people in Truesdale that are really miserable. You know, this confusion kind of constantly occurs.
This interview with Wilder seems very on track with what I have learned about him from fan magazines. Hard-headed, but with a clear and concise understanding of his process and what it takes to make a Billy Wilder film. In an article from Motion Picture Daily, they mention how his film following Some Like It Hot, The Apartment, had grossed over $1,300,000. And this was, of course, compared to the, quote, record-setting box office performance of Some Like It Hot, end quote. Billy had closed out the 50s on a high of all fives, and he would continue, of course, to have hits until the late 60s, when he was somewhat deemed out of fashion. Despite this, his run in the 1950s should be documented as one of the most powerful and versatile showcases of a director within one singular decade. A powerful director that went from the brutal realities of Sunset Boulevard all the way to the wonderful gray comedy of Some Like It Hot. A versatile mastermind that had not lost the concept of the modern audience. Overall, I believe Wilder to be one of the greatest directors of all time, and any time. His pacings and endings alone give you the reasons to go and watch his filmography. It would even be tempting to binge watch through all of it. Although, like a fine wine, many of Wilder's films took time to age. Nowadays, we see most of his filmography as films worth watching. Learning about his complex origins due to political upheaval was very interesting to me. These horrible events in his life feed into his art. Instead of pushing down all these complex and deeply traumatizing emotions and past moments, he made it for his art. He shows a satirical version of reality, a desperately needed look into the mirror. His films, with their very much ahead of his time pacing, makes him an enjoyable watch for even the short attention spans of the modern viewer. Thank you.